Greetings everybody, my name is Tommy the Game Master and welcome to my channel, and today we are going to be taking a look at the second Mega Man X Legacy Collection, and oh boy are we about to find out why the character in this series is named X. X being a variable for an unknown, as Dr. Light put it, X possesses great possibilities as well as great risks. We saw the great possibilities in the last collections. Now we're going to be talking about the great risks in all three of these games on this collection. One of those games just simply doesn't exist to us Mega Man fans, and I don't care if I reviewed it before or am planning on talking about it in this video, just simply doesn't exist. Anyways, I can easily sum up the problems I have with this group of games as Capcom trying to fix not only what wasn't broken, but was pretty much perfection to begin with. Why were they doing this? Well, times were a-changing back in the early aughts when these games were first released, and while nowadays releasing a solid 2D action game in the vein of X4 on a digital marketplace will get you all kinds of praise, it's important to realize these marketplaces didn't exist at the time. So if you released a 2D action game like X4 on disc and in a retail marketplace, reviewers at the time would rip you apart. Don't believe me? X4 may be regarded as one of the many classic games that came out in 1997, but check out some of the review scores from back when they gave it a 6 or a 7 a lot of the time. What was X4's cardinal sin in a lot of the reviewers' minds? It wasn't in 3D. How dare a classic game franchise not get with the times and be 3D like the rest of the crowd? Yeah, back then, according to a lot of the critics, reviewers, and quite a few gamers, it was better to be a crappy 3D game than a solid 2D game. And let's just say that a game in this collection taught us the errors and that kind of thinking big time, even if that said game doesn't exist. Anyways, because of the changing times, Capcom decided they had to meddle with the X formula to try to make the games bigger and better, and instead we get the games in this collection which are really a mixed bag. Let's take a look at Mega Man Legacy Collection 2. Yeah, you know everything I talked about in the first one? Yeah, it's pretty much here in the second. Things like the galleries and the music tracks that are game specific have been updated, of course. However, things like the trailers, toy galleries, X challenge mode, despite the number 2 in the name, is the same damn thing this time around. And the Day of Sigma anime are still here from the original X Legacy Collection. And so are the filters for at least 2 of the games. Oh, and for those who are wondering, the Japanese games might be here, but the Japanese music for the intros have been cut out. I'll talk about what I think of the port jobs on the last 2 PS2 games later on in the review. Because they're so similar, let's skip talking about the extras, because X Legacy Collection 2 certainly has some ups and downs when it comes to the games. Mega Man X5. X5 was supposed to be the end of the Mega Man X series. If you think about the end of 4, the story of X and the original 0, it kind of made sense. At the end of X4, X tells Zero this.
But Zero, what if I become one of the Mavericks?
Don't ask such a silly question. I'm breaking contact now.
Wait, Zero! I'm serious! Zero, if I become a Maverick, you have to take care of me.
Zero ends up getting killed off at the end of Mega Man X5, and X has to continue on by himself. Zero does manage to live, but stays asleep 100 years, wakes up with amnesia due to damage in his memory circuits, and has to fight and kill an out-of-control X to keep his promise to him. Too bad other games would follow, but I can't blame Capcom because the way this game is presented, it would be a lousy ending to a great series. This game probably has the worst presentation of any of the X games. X4 had anime cutscenes and voice acting. This has stills and annoying beeping sounds to tell its story. A lot of annoying beeping sounds. Anyways, the story in this one is Sigma has hijacked a space colony and has launched it towards Earth. X and Zero have 16 hours to keep it from crashing into Earth. Meanwhile, Sigma has also spread a virus causing Reploids everywhere to go crazy, and the virus is also affecting Zero in some completely different ways. All in all, it's a decent story, just wish they had presented it a bit better. What about the gameplay? Well, as I said before, X5 came out during a time where just being a 2D game could be considered a detriment, and Capcom was looking for ways to expand the series beyond its core, with some very mixed results. There are 2 types of armor for X to get in this instead of 1, and both of them kinda suck in my opinion, especially when compared to the 4th armor from the last game. There's also an RPG system meant to level up the characters, but it's so complicated and convoluted, you're better off just ignoring it. Also, that 16-hour time limit, it is also in play. Basically, each time you select a stage, the timer goes down by 1. If it reaches 0, you can still go on to the final stages, but you lose access to 0 and get the bad ending. If there is one thing X5 has going for it, it's good stage design and some great looking 2D graphics. It's worth checking out and playing though, but as good as X4 or the original X, this game most certainly is not. Oh, and remember what I said of my original collection that there would be changes to some of these games? Yeah, here they switched the Maverick names back to what they were in the original X instruction booklet. No Duff McWhalen because it's now Tidal Whale. They also changed a few lines of dialogue here and there. Now this isn't a new redub of the game, it's more like someone actually did a spell check on the game and got rid of some of the worst cases of English in this game. That said, the PS2 collection might actually beat this when it comes to best version of the game, as the slowdown that plagues the Dark Necrobat stage has now returned in full force. Anyways, because X5 was supposed to be the last, and the developers of that went on to make the Mega Man Zero series, we got new developers trying to continue the X storyline, and oh boy, is the next game full of rookie mistakes and a whole lot of frustrations. Releasing a very short time here stateside after X5, X6 kinda landed with a thud. And while X5 had some quality, it's hard not to play through X6 and feel like they dropped the ball on this one. That's not to say there aren't any good ideas, very poorly implemented ideas, but nonetheless good ideas tried in X6. First, let's talk about the story. The game does get some props for at least trying to have an original villain and trying to connect him back to the past of one of the characters, Aaliyah. Basically, some misunderstood scientist Gate gets a hold of one of Zero's pieces, which somehow drives him mad, but it gives him the ability to resurrect some of his old Reploids he created, as well as create a new nightmare virus. When the nightmare takes the shape of Zero, though, X decides he must investigate and of course finds the real Zero is still alive. How? Well, it's a mystery that can be summed up as Capcom wanted more money and hoped you ignore the Phoenix Wright-sized contradictions in X5's endings. Still, outside of Zero's return being completely botched, the game story is pretty decent. We have a somewhat rounded villain that's not Sigma and some background for Aaliyah here, but can't say the same thing about the stage design and difficulty. X6 can be masochistically hard. Okay, the RPG mechanics from X5 are back, at least they did the wise thing and simplified it a bit. In each stage you have these Reploids you have to save. Some will give you health power-ups, while others will give you add-ons to boost your stats. You don't know which one will give you what, so you have to rescue as many as you can, which is harder than you might think, as if a nightmare virus touches them, they could get killed. What sucks about the game is its stage design. It is the worst in the X series, hands down. The final levels are almost impossible to get through, as Gates' laboratory is mainly decorated with spikes and other sharp objects that makes it almost impossible to get around. The game was made for Rookie Hunter mode. In Rookie Hunter mode, spikes and pits don't kill you, they just damage you, which makes getting past Gates' laboratory a lot more doable and a bit more fun in my opinion. I think Capcom realized they screwed the pooch with this game, and it's why Rookie Hunter mode exists. And it's different from X3 in the way I say it's too hard. All X3 needed was a bit of rebalancing and it would be good. X6 is just way too difficult not to be frustrating outside of Rookie Hunter mode. No one will judge you for turning it on here. Oh, and for the changes they made in this game, it's an odd one. Okay, in Japan, I guess all the X games have J-pop songs on the PlayStation. Most of them were, of course, taken out of the English releases. For X6, they decided to leave about 3 J-pop songs in the PS1 release, and they also kept them in the PS2 collection. However, the PS2 collection left out the Japanese vocals. In this new collection, the music for the opening movie has been changed, but the Japanese vocals are back in, and all of their over-the-top glory. Yeah, and you thought the English Zero scene was the most over-the-top. Making ironically, the only one that will give you the complete experience is the original PlayStation release. At any rate, I kind of prefer having the cutscene vocals over the somewhat annoying J-pop songs, so this works out for me, but I can understand why some people would disagree with me, and for those wondering why Capcom would take out all the music when it comes to the Japanese versions, when it comes to licensing and copyright, the Japanese music industry wrote the book on how to be anal about them. Still, these changes don't change the frustrating stage design, so it goes without saying, Mega Man X6, regardless of what version, is the worst X game that is known to exist. Wait, I said exist! Ah, damn it! Well, I guess I should talk about the next one, even if it doesn't exist. Meet the game that killed the Mega Man X franchise, and I think really did a lot of damage on the Mega Man property as a whole. Mega Man X7. Now, X7 is bad, but is it the worst game I've ever played? No, but it's just not fun. And I've had people come up and tell me X6 was worst. After all, they said the developers had a game pretty much handed to them and they just needed to do the stage design and a few things on the side. And we got that crap. And X7 problems mainly came from a core of B-listers at Capcom not knowing what they were doing and creating a clumsily made product that just happens to be slow, sluggish, and not very good in either the 3D or 2D sections of the game. But outside of the clumsiness, it's a decent game. To them I say I understand your argument, but X6 did have some really good ideas. The designers probably could have just used some help reining back in some of their bad ideas, especially towards the last few stages, and I would argue there was also a lot of fun parts in X6. There is nothing fun about X7, and there are tons of other bad decisions made that have nothing to do with the 3D sections or bad stage design. Let's talk about the Mega Man equivalent of Scrappy Doo, which is Axel. Now, I don't hate Scrappy Doo, nor do I hate Axel. I do hate the fact that Hanna-Barbera decided to replace most of the cast as Scooby-Doo, so Scrappy could be the star, and the same thing can be said about Capcom with Axel in this game. Yeah, the game is titled Mega Man X7, but you have to play through about half the game before you can unlock X. The rest of the time, you're stuck playing as either Axel or Zero, and Zero really sucks this time, and Axel just isn't very much fun to play as either. Oh, and another bad decision is hiring people I'm guessing do narration or audiobooks, but don't really do a lot of voice acting or voiceovers for video games or cartoon, as we get the worst dub in the series. Before anyone goes on about how much people like to poke fun of X4's voice acting, I would like to say this. X4 had amateurs do it, but they had passion and energy towards their job. So even though X was horribly miscast with a high-pitched woman doing his voice, you still get emotion from him in that last scene with him and Zero that I showed earlier. And even though this scene is poked fun of to death...
Ah! No, this isn't happening! There's no reason for me to go on. What am I fighting for?
It's still entertaining because the actor puts a lot of energy into it. Not much technique, but a lot of energy, making it enjoyably bad. The acting in this game has absolutely no energy in it. It's lethargic as hell and it's just boring to listen to. Here, listen to X for just a moment.
Why must Reploids fight one another? I've had enough violence.
I think if I wrote the same text and had my Microsoft Word speak function I used to proofread my work, sometimes read it, it would come off with more energy.
Why must replaceoids fight one another? I've had enough violence.
Anyways, the story starts up that a new group of bounty hunters called Red Alert has risen to basically do the job of the Maverick Hunters because Axis decided to become the world's largest crybaby and quit the Hunters. Red Alert's secret weapon is Axel, who can copy other Reploids and their abilities. However, Axel, sensing something is wrong with the group, decides to quit and run to the Maverick Hunters for help. This causes Red Alert to issue a challenge to the Hunters. Defeat them and they can keep Axel. If they don't, then the Hunters will be destroyed. X is against it, but Zero decides he will help protect Axel, and the rest of the game just plods along until we learn that Sigma was behind Red Alert, because of course he is. I'll be honest with you, when I bought both collections, X7 was the first game I tried. I had to see if there were any improvements made to it, and the answer to this question is for the most part no. It is still slow, clumsy, has a bad frame rate. That said, it has a decent HD port. The colors are smooth and vibrant, and the game just really pops out at you compared to the original. Capcom really did a good job of polishing this turd. Unfortunately, it comes off still being a turd. This might have been the first game I played out of the two Legacy collections, but it's the only game I have not finished, and considering how many times I have played through some of the others, that is saying something. I wish to say X7 was just a bad game and leave it at that, but the disappointment of X6 and this being an absolute turd, it destroyed the Mega Man X franchise. Capcom, to their credit, tried to keep it going, and the next 3 game releases for it were good. Maverick Hunter X was a great remake. Command Mission showed that the elements that make a good Mega Man game can work in a JRPG, and the next game in the collection showed that rather than fixing what wasn't broken, it would be better just to expand upon it. Unfortunately, the damage was done in all 3 of those games, but the bomb in the blue bomber when it comes to sales, and the X series was just finished. See why Mega Man fans would prefer if X7 didn't exist? Well, there's one good thing I can say about the way Capcom released the X collections. If you want the physical discs, you will get both collections. That means with any luck, X8 is now accessible to more people now than it ever was on the PS2, and hopefully more people will play it and see it as the hidden gem that it really is. X8 takes the 2 good things X7 had and completely did wrong, and fixes them up and makes them the center of the gameplay. That is, having multiple characters and being able to switch between them at a moment's notice. But now they took a few pages from Marvel vs. Capcom, and characters in standby can regenerate some of their health. Also, all 3 characters are selectable from the beginning, and none of them suck. They really have their strengths and weaknesses. Zero is still good at close range. X can do a lot more damage with his buster and special weapons, which have pitiful amounts of ammo, and Axel can fire really fast. However, and while his special weapons aren't nearly as powerful as X, they don't need any special ammo to fire. They also fixed the armor problems that X5 and X6 had, giving us 2 really good pieces of armor, and the way they fix it is that the first armor piece X gives him access to the neutral armor, which he can put any piece he collects from the other capsules into this armor, making X extremely customizable. But if you collect all of the same armor, you get the Hermes and Icarus armors, and both are extremely overpowered. As far as powering up the characters, Gone are rescuing Reploids with random power-ups, and instead is a store where you can buy most of the power-ups. So if you need to sideline Zero for a few missions, you don't need to worry about him being too weak when you decide to take him along. Special medals unlock new things in the shop for each character. Add in a really fun New Game Plus option that allows you to take anything you purchase in the shop and move it into a new game, and X8 has some incredible replay value. Hell, you can even unlock 3 new characters that work as your navigators as playable characters now. I'll even give some props on the story, as Capcom looked like it was trying to pull away from Sigma being the only primary villain in the X franchise, as the game ending hints at him finally being destroyed this time. But now X has to live with the fact that the new model Reploids are even more human and can opt to rebel whenever they want, meaning the world has become even more unstable. Throw in some incredible dubbed English voices that actually do a good job, and you have the best game in this collection.
Darn!
X? What's the matter? The mission's only just begun.
That's right. It's begun again. How long must this war go on?
As far as the HD transfer goes, I can say the same thing about X7. Capcom did a decent job polishing this game up, and it looks really good in HD, way better than the PS2 version had. So, with all these incredible good things to say, do I have any bad things to say about Mega Man X8? Well, one bad thing here is the stage design isn't very good. It's not bad, and it's downright perfect compared to X6. The problem here is the stages are a bit on the generic and gimmicky side and aren't very memorable or organic feeling when you compare them to the likes of the original X, with only a few standout stages like the first and last stage and Bamboo Pandemonium, for example, feeling like Mega Man stages. And when you have gimmick stages like Gigavolt Manowar, it does keep it from rising to the top of the list when it comes to Mega Man X games. Mega Man X Legacy Collection 2 is a mixed bag of games. X5 is a good, but not as great as the games featured in the original Legacy Collection. X8 is an underrepresented and underappreciated gem in my opinion, and one of the reasons why I got the second collection. That said, X6 needs the Rookie Hunter mode for it to be anything closely resembling fun, and X7 is a turd. I don't care how much you shine it up, it's a turd whose hot mess ended up killing the Mega Man X franchise. If you're not getting these games in a physical bundle, then I do recommend getting the original Legacy Collection at full price. It is fully worth $20 for X1 through X4. But when it comes to the second collection, put it on your wish list and wait for a half-off sale. Only half the titles in here are really worth getting, in my opinion. At any rate, this is Tommy the Game Master thanking you for watching this video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. I'll see you guys next time.